The night was dark and heavy, the air was cold, and the sky above the strange planet was filled with silent stars. A lone human walked through the rocky land, his boots making soft sounds on the dust. He was far from home, far from Earth, and every step reminded him that he was only a visitor here, a stranger in a world that did not belong to him. His name was Daniel, an explorer, a man who believed in courage more than fear. He came to this place to study the land, to search for life, and to survive with nothing but his pack and his will. He thought it would be another lonely night of silence, but fate had written a different story. From the hills, a sound broke the stillness. It was not the cry of a beast, not the wind, but the weak voice of something alive. Daniel turned quickly, his eyes scanning the shadows, and there, lying close to a broken tree, he saw her, a girl, not human, not like him, her skin pale silver under the moonlight, her hair shining as if made of threads of light, her body weak and wounded. For a moment Daniel froze, his heart raced. He knew stories of alien creatures, some dangerous, some deadly, but the girl looked small, fragile. Her breathing shallow and her eyes wide and glowing faintly were filled not with hate but with fear. He took slow steps toward her, his hand near his weapon ready in case it was a trap, but when he saw her trying to lift her hand, trying to call for help but failing, his weapon lowered. His human heart could not turn away. Daniel knelt beside her, his voice calm, gentle. "It's okay. You're safe now." Though he knew she could not understand his language, still his tone carried warmth. He touched her arm lightly, feeling her cold skin, and he saw the wound on her side, a deep cut, dark liquid flowing slowly. She was hurt badly, and if he left her, she would die before dawn. Daniel looked at the sky, then back at the girl, and a strange thought came to him. Saving her might bring danger. Maybe her people would come. Maybe enemies would follow. But leaving her was something he could not do. He took water from his pack. He cleaned the wound. He tore a piece of his own shirt to bind it. His hands moved quickly but with care. The girl's glowing eyes never left his face, and in them he saw something strange. Not just fear but trust. The night grew colder. Daniel carried her carefully to the small shelter he had built from stone and fabric. He placed her on his blanket, gave her warmth, and watched as her breathing slowly grew steady. Hours passed. Silence returned, and Daniel sat near the fire staring at the girl, asking himself questions with no answers. Who was she? Why was she alone? What hunted her he did not know, but he felt the start of a bond, a silent promise that he would protect her. Suddenly the fire flickered. The ground shook slightly. Daniel rose at once, his eyes sharp. He stepped outside, and the sky above made his breath stop. Strange marks glowed across the heavens, lines of fire, symbols burning in the night sky, as if the universe itself had written a warning. Daniel had never seen such a thing, and he felt a chill run through him. Behind him, the alien girl stirred, her weak voice calling softly, though he could not understand the words. He knew it was fear. He knew she had seen those marks before. Daniel clenched his fists. He looked at her, then at the sky again. He whispered to himself, "What have I brought into my life?" The night was no longer silent. The story had begun, and the rescue was only the first step into a world of danger and mystery. The morning came slowly. The twin suns of the alien world rose together, spreading strange light across the land. Daniel opened his tired eyes, the memory of the night still fresh in his mind. The girl he had saved was lying only a few steps away, her silver skin glowing faintly in the new day, her breathing calm but shallow. For a long time Daniel simply watched her, the way her hair caught the light, the way her fingers twitched as if she was dreaming. She looked peaceful now, but he remembered how broken she had been when he found her. Her wounds, her fear, and those marks in the sky that still haunted his thoughts. He took water from his pack and placed a few drops near her lips. At first she did not move, then slowly she drank. Her eyes opening halfway, those glowing eyes met his, and for a moment it was as if two worlds had collided. Human and alien, stranger and savior. Daniel tried to speak, his voice soft. "You're safe here. Don't worry." Of course he knew she could not understand, but still he spoke because silence was heavier than words, and because kindness needed no translation. The girl moved weakly, her hands touching the bandage he had made. She whispered something in her own tongue, a soft sound like music but filled with pain. Daniel listened, though the meaning escaped him. He felt the emotion behind it. She was trying to thank him. Hours passed. Daniel cooked a small meal. He offered her some, and though she hesitated, she tasted it, her eyes widening slightly, maybe in surprise. Maybe in relief, Daniel smiled. A small victory in the middle of an unknown land. But the peace did not last long. As the day grew brighter, strange cries echoed from the distance. Daniel stepped out of the shelter, scanning the rocky hills. Shadows moved far away, too quick, too many. He felt his chest tighten. Something was hunting. Something was searching. When he returned inside, he found the girl awake. Her glowing eyes wide, her hand clutching his sleeve. She pointed to the horizon, whispered a single word again and again. He could not understand, but he felt the fear in her voice. Daniel nodded. He whispered back, "I get it. They're looking for you." And though she could not know his words, she seemed to understand the feeling. Her eyes filled with silent tears. The hours stretched. Daniel stayed close, guarding the entrance of the shelter, his weapon ready, but the danger did not come. Instead, the strange quiet returned, heavy and unnatural. When night came again, Daniel lit the fire. The girl sat near him now, weak but no longer afraid to be close. Her eyes studied his face as if trying to learn who he was. Her silence spoke more than words. And Daniel realized something, though she could not talk to him. She was trying to tell him her story through her eyes. He looked at her carefully. He noticed the patterns on her skin, faint lines that glowed when the fire touched them. Almost like symbols, maybe a language, maybe a mark of her people. He wondered if she was important, maybe a leader's daughter, maybe someone sacred. But one thing was certain, she was not ordinary. She carried something inside her that made the sky itself burn with symbols, and that thought kept Daniel awake long after she had fallen asleep. The night was quiet, until suddenly, Daniel's ears caught a sound, footsteps, not one but many. He rose silently, his weapon firm in his hands. Outside, the shadows grew. Dark figures moved across the land, surrounding the shelter slowly. Daniel's heart raced. He turned to the girl. Her eyes opened, glowing brighter than before. She looked at him with urgency and whispered again, a word filled with warning. The fire crackled. The ground outside shifted, and Daniel knew the rescue had only been the beginning. Now something greater was coming. The night had been restless. Daniel had not closed his eyes. The alien girl had slept in broken moments, her breath uneven, her glowing eyes opening again and again. Every time he heard the distant sound of footsteps, every time the shadows passed near the shelter, he kept his weapon close, waiting. When the first sun rose, Daniel stepped outside, his body heavy with tiredness. The land around him seemed calm again. No movement, no sound of hunters, yet his instincts whispered danger. He had lived too many lonely nights on this planet to ignore the signs. Inside, the girl sat up slowly, her wound healing little by little. Her eyes watched him as if asking questions. She wanted to know if they were safe. He gave her a small nod, though he did not believe his own answer. Hours passed, the sky turned golden, and then Daniel felt it. The ground trembled slightly. Not like before, this was different. Steady, rhythmic, like a march. He gripped his weapon and stood in front of the girl, his heart pounding harder. From beyond the ridge they appeared, tall figures walking in perfect lines, their steps echoing on the stones. There were 7 of them, maybe more hidden behind, their bodies covered in shining armor, their faces marked with symbols that glowed faintly like fire. Their presence filled the land with silence. Daniel's breath caught. He had seen many strange beings before, but these were different. Not wild, not broken, they moved with purpose, with power, with unity, their weapons long and curved, glowing at the edges. The girl inside the shelter made a soft sound, a whisper, her eyes wide with recognition. Daniel turned. He saw fear and also something else. Relief. It was as if she knew them, as if she had been waiting for them. The tall women stopped a few steps away. Their leader stepped forward, her height greater than Daniel's, her armor brighter, her eyes glowing the same as the girl's but stronger. She looked at Daniel with sharp silence. Then her gaze moved to the girl and her head lowered slowly. The other women followed, all lowering their heads, their weapons held to the ground. Daniel was stunned, his thoughts racing. They were not enemies. They were not hunters. They were her people. The girl tried to rise, her body weak. Daniel helped her stand. And the moment the leader saw her fully, she spoke in a tongue Daniel did not know, a deep, flowing language. The girl replied softly, her voice trembling. Daniel stood there, his heart confused. He had saved her life, carried her through the night, and now her people were here, powerful and strange. What did they see when they looked at him? A hero, or a thief who had touched what was not his? The leader's glowing eyes returned to Daniel. She walked closer, her steps heavy but graceful, She spoke again, her tone sharp, commanding, though he could not understand the words. Her voice carried meaning. She was questioning him, judging him. Daniel raised his chin, his voice steady. I found her alone. I saved her. I mean no harm. His words fell into the air, lost in translation, but his tone was clear, his eyes firm. For a moment, silence, only the wind moved. Then the leader studied him longer, and something like respect passed through her gaze. The girl spoke again, her weak voice soft but clear, her words making the leader pause. The tribe behind her murmured among themselves, their whispers sharp like the sound of knives. Finally, the leader raised her hand, the whispers stopped. She pointed at Daniel, then at the girl, then at the burning sky above. She spoke in a tone filled with weight, as if she was giving him a choice, as if his fate was now tied to the girl's destiny. Daniel felt the pressure. He did not know what promise he was being pulled into, but his heart told him this was not the end. It was the beginning of something much greater. The girl's glowing eyes met his, for the first time without fear, as if telling him silently, "Do not leave me." The tribe of women surrounded them, their weapons raised to the sky, their voices rising in a chant that shook the land. Daniel's skin turned cold. The sound was not only ritual, it was warning, it was war. The suns burned high above. The air trembled with the chant, and Daniel knew the rescue had brought him into a storm much bigger than himself. The chanting of the tribe echoed through the valley, their voices deep and strange. Daniel stood at the center, his hands tight on his weapon, the alien girl leaning weakly against him, her glowing eyes looking from him to her people. Torn between safety and fear, the leader of the tribe raised her hand, and the chanting stopped. Silence fell heavy on the land. Every eye turned to Daniel. He felt the weight of judgment pressing down. He was only a man from Earth, yet here he was, surrounded by warriors who looked at him as if his next breath would decide his fate. The leader spoke again in her flowing language, the words strong and sharp. Though Daniel could not understand, the tone made his heart pound. She was demanding something, asking a question that burned with importance. The alien girl stepped forward weakly, her body trembling but her voice steady. She answered the leader with words Daniel could not grasp, but her hand pointed at him, her silver fingers trembling yet firm, her eyes glowing brighter as she spoke. The tribe murmured, their eyes flashing, some with anger, some with surprise. They whispered like a storm, their weapons tapping against the ground. The air filled with tension. Daniel stood still, every muscle tight. He understood one thing. The girl was defending him. The leader's eyes narrowed. She looked at Daniel again, walking closer until her shadow fell over him. She was taller, stronger, her armor shining with strange energy. Her hand reached for his chest, pressing lightly as if to test his strength, as if to feel the courage inside him. Daniel did not move. He stood tall, his voice calm though his heart thundered. I don't know your words, but I won't step back. I saved her because it was right. If you want to take her, you'll have to go through me, the tribe hissed, their voices sharp, their weapons lifted slightly. But the leader raised her hand again, stopping them, her glowing eyes locked with his, and in that silence something passed between them. A recognition. The girl spoke again, softer this time, her voice carrying sorrow and hope. Daniel watched her, wishing he could understand, but he felt the meaning. She was asking him to stay, to choose her side. The leader finally turned away. She lifted her weapon and struck it against the ground. The sound echoed like thunder. The tribe answered with a deep chant. And then the leader spoke a single word Daniel could almost understand, a word that felt like judgment and acceptance at once. The leader pointed at the girl, then at Daniel, then at the sky where strange marks still burned faintly. Her voice rose, declaring something heavy. The tribe repeated after her, their chant rolling like waves. Daniel realized the truth. They were binding him, making him part of whatever destiny the girl carried. He had no choice now. By saving her, he had stepped into their world, and their law demanded he share her fate. His throat felt dry, his mind screamed with doubt. But when he looked at the girl, at the way she watched him with silent trust, he felt his answer. He could not walk away, not now, not after everything. He lowered his weapon slowly, a sign of peace, his voice steady. All right then, if this is the path, I'll walk it. Though they could not hear his words, the tone was enough. The girl's eyes softened, a single tear shining in the glow. The tribe moved closer, surrounding them. They marked the ground with glowing dust, strange patterns forming under their feet. Daniel watched in silence, unease crawling up his spine. The ritual felt ancient, binding. The leader raised her weapon to the sky, the others followed. And the land shook as their chant rose again. Daniel felt the air vibrate, felt heat rush through the symbols glowing on the ground, and suddenly the girl's skin shone brighter, her wound closing faster, her body regaining strength. Daniel stepped back, shocked, but she reached for his hand, her touch warm, her glow spreading faintly into his skin. His heart raced. Something flowed into him, a spark of energy. The leader spoke again, her eyes on him, her tone now less sharp, almost respectful. She was telling him something, warning him maybe, and though he could not understand the words, the meaning pressed into his soul. Danger was coming. Something vast. Something cruel. The tribe had chosen him. The girl had chosen him. Now he had to choose himself. The fire in the ground faded. The chanting stopped. Silence returned. Daniel looked at the girl, her glowing eyes steady now. She whispered something soft, a word repeated twice, her first word to him that carried meaning. Protector, protector. Daniel's breath caught. The title settled on him like heavy armor. He had made his choice, but the price of that choice had only begun to show. The night after the ritual was heavy with silence. Daniel sat near the fire. The alien girl rested close to him. The tribe of women stood around them like a living wall, their glowing armor reflecting the flames, their eyes always on the horizon, waiting. Daniel's body still felt strange. Since the ritual, his skin carried a faint warmth. His muscles felt alive in a new way. He did not understand it, but he knew something had been placed inside him, something connected to the girl and to her people. The leader stood apart, her weapon resting in the ground, her eyes on the stars. Daniel followed her gaze and his breath caught. The sky was no longer empty. Shapes moved above, silent and dark. They slid across the heavens like shadows of giants. Ships! The girl stirred, her glowing eyes widening with fear. She whispered a single word again and again. Daniel could not understand it, but her trembling voice told him enough. The enemy had come. The ground trembled. Not softly like before, but hard and sharp. The tribe lifted their weapons. The leader barked a command and the women spread out, forming a circle. Daniel rose, gripping his weapon, his heart beating fast. From the horizon, dark machines appeared, tall like towers, walking on heavy legs of steel, their bodies covered in black metal, their eyes red with fire. They moved with the sound of thunder, every step cracking the earth. Daniel's breath grew heavy. He had seen machines before, but nothing like these. They were built for war, built for destruction, and they were coming straight for them. The leader shouted again, her voice strong. The women raised their glowing weapons. The air buzzed with strange energy. Daniel felt the pull of it in his veins, like a current. He looked at the girl. She was watching him, her hand reaching for his, her glow pressing against his skin. In that moment, Daniel felt it, strength rising inside him. Faster, sharper, his senses clear, his breath steady. It was as if the bond had awakened, something buried deep. He could almost hear the hum of the tribe's weapons in his own blood. The machines drew closer, their red eyes burning. And then from their sides, smaller drones flew out, spinning through the air like swarms of metal insects, their wings cutting the wind, their weapons glowing. The tribe did not wait. Their leader roared a command and the battle began. Beams of light shot into the sky. Clashing with the drones, the machines roared, firing blasts of fire into the ground. The valley shook. Daniel fought beside them, his weapon firing bright streaks into the air. Drones fell, sparks burning across the dirt. The tribe moved with perfect unity, their blades cutting through the machines, their voices rising in war chants, but the enemy was endless. Every time a drone fell, two more took its place. The machines pressed forward, their legs crushing stone, their fire burning the ground. Daniel's arms ached, but the glow in his body pushed him forward. He felt faster, stronger, his aim sharper than ever before. He cut down drones that moved quicker than thought, his breath steady, his fear fading into focus. The girl stood behind him, her glowing eyes fixed on him, her hands raised as if guiding him. And with every movement he made, he felt her presence inside him, their bond deeper than words. The leader of the tribe fought like a storm, her blade cutting through steel, her voice echoing like thunder. But even she looked back at Daniel, her eyes wide with something close to shock. She had not expected him to fight like this. The battle raged, fire filled the sky. The land cracked under the weight of machines, yet the tribe held strong, their circle unbroken, their chants rising even louder. Then a roar split the air, deeper than the machines, stronger than thunder. Daniel looked to the ridge and his heart sank. A massive figure stepped into view, taller than the machines, its body wrapped in black armor, its face hidden behind a mask of fire. In its hand a weapon longer than any blade Daniel had ever seen. The ground shook with every step. The girl gasped, her voice trembling as she whispered again, her eyes filled with fear. The words she spoke carried weight. This was no ordinary enemy. This was their warlord. Daniel's grip tightened on his weapon, sweat rolling down his face, his breath sharp. He felt the glow in his body rise stronger, but he knew this fight would not be like the others. The tribe leader shouted, her voice breaking through the noise, rallying her people. Their weapons lifted again, but even they hesitated, their eyes full of fear. The warlord raised his blade, fire spilling into the night sky, his voice booming like a storm. And in that moment Daniel understood. The rescue, the tribe, the ritual, all of it had led to this. The real battle had only just begun. The warlord stood on the ridge, his blade burning like a piece of the sun, his armor black as night. Every step he took shook the ground. The machines around him roared louder. The drones swirled above like a storm of steel. The tribe tightened their circle, their glowing weapons ready. Daniel's chest burned with heat, the glow inside him stronger than ever. He felt his blood rushing, his senses sharp, every sound clear, every movement bright. The alien girl behind him placed her hand on his shoulder, her glow flowing into him, and he understood. Their bond was the key. The tribe leader shouted, her voice tearing through the chaos. And with a cry the warriors charged, their blades shining like lightning, their voices a storm. The enemy met them with fire, with steel, with endless drones filling the sky. Daniel moved with them, his weapon raised, his body faster than it had ever been. Drones shot toward him, but his arms cut them down, his aim perfect, his breath calm. It was as if he had trained his whole life for this moment, though he knew it was not him alone. It was the girl's power flowing with his. The machines slammed their heavy legs into the ground. Beams of fire burst out, but the tribe danced between them, their unity perfect. One moved, another followed, their weapons cutting steel, sparks flying across the valley. Daniel fought through them, his body burning with energy. His strikes harder, his movements sharper. He tore down drones that outnumbered him. He faced machines twice his size, and yet he stood unbroken, unstoppable. The warlord finally stepped forward. His blade lifted high. He swung once and the ground split, a line of fire rushing across the valley. Daniel pushed the girl back, the tribe scattered, some falling, the leader herself rolling aside just in time. The fire roared past, burning stone into ash. Daniel's eyes locked with the warlord's mask. Behind the fire he felt the weight of hatred. The warlord was not here for the tribe. He was here for the girl, for the power she carried. And Daniel was in the way. The warlord roared, charging forward, his blade heavy, his steps shaking the ground. Daniel raised his weapon, but the force of the strike nearly broke him. Sparks burst, his arms trembled, yet he stood, teeth clenched. Refusing to fall, the girl cried out, her voice sharp, her hands glowing brighter, light spilling into Daniel's body. His strength surged, his arms steadied, he pushed back, his weapon burning against the warlord's blade. The tribe saw him, saw a human standing against their greatest enemy, and their voices rose louder, their chants echoing. Their courage renewed, they charged again, cutting through the machines. Holding the line, the warlord swung again, his blade crashing like thunder. Daniel moved quicker, his body flowing with unnatural speed. He dodged, struck, blocked, each clash sending fire into the sky, each strike shaking the earth. The battle between them became the heart of the war. Drones swirled above, but the tribe cut them down. Their leader fought through flames, her armor glowing, her voice shouting commands. They were not only fighting for the girl now, they were fighting for the human who stood beside her. Daniel felt the bond deepen, the girl's glow stronger, her eyes fixed on him. Every time he stumbled, she pulled him back with her light. Every time his strength wavered, she filled him again. Together they were more than either alone. The warlord roared, his blade burning brighter. He struck again and again, but Daniel met him. Sparks flying, steel screaming, the glow inside him now afire. His movements no longer human, his strikes shaking even the massive warlord. The tribe shouted his name, their voices mixing with their chants. Protector, protector, the word carried across the valley. It was no longer only hers, it was theirs too. The machines began to fall one by one, the tribe cutting them down with renewed fury. The drones scattered, their numbers breaking, but the warlord still stood, his fire unbroken, his rage endless. Daniel pushed forward, his weapon burning with light, his body glowing faintly now, his breath steady, his voice rising with the tribe's chant. He struck with all his strength. Their blades clashed, and for the first time the warlord staggered back. The girl cried out, her glow blazing, the symbols on her skin burning brighter than ever. Daniel felt the surge inside him. His vision clear, his body stronger, he roared as he charged again. His strike meeting the warlord's chest, sparks exploding, armor cracking. The warlord fell back, the ground trembling. His mask cracked, fire spilling out, his roar shaking the sky. The battle had turned, but it was not over. The valley burned with smoke and fire. The tribe stood together. Daniel stood glowing with power. The girl behind him whispering his name. The warlord rising again, his rage greater than before. The real fight had only just begun. The valley was broken. Fire burned across the ground. Smoke rose into the night sky. The tribe stood bruised but unbroken, their weapons glowing faintly. Their breaths heavy. In the center Daniel stood, his body shaking with exhaustion, his skin glowing faintly from the bond. The alien girl behind him, her hand still resting on his shoulder, her eyes shining with hope and fear. The warlord rose slowly, his armor cracked, fire spilling through the breaks, his mask half broken. Behind it Daniel saw burning eyes. Filled with rage and hunger, the giant roared, his voice shaking stone. He raised his massive blade once more. Daniel felt the weight of it, his arms heavy, his legs weak. But the glow inside him burned stronger. The girl's presence flowed through him, giving him strength he did not own. He looked at her. She nodded, her eyes telling him silently. This was the last stand. The tribe gathered closer. Their leader raising her weapon, her voice rising in a chant. The others followed, their voices deep and powerful. The chant carried through Daniel's bones. It became part of his heartbeat. Protector, protector. Protector, the warlord charged, his blade cutting fire through the night. Daniel stepped forward, his body burning with light. Their weapons met with a crash louder than thunder. Sparks exploded. The earth cracked under their feet. Daniel pushed, his arms trembling, his body screaming in pain. But the girl's glow surged into him, her strength flowing into his. Their bond complete. His eyes burned with light. His strike growing stronger, the warlord staggered back, roaring. The tribe attacked the machines that still crawled, their blades cutting through steel, their chants never breaking. The leader herself striking at the warlord's legs, forcing him to stumble. Daniel saw his chance with a cry. He lifted his weapon high, the glow spreading across his body, his voice rising with the tribe's chant, and he struck down with all the power inside him. The weapon cut through the warlord's armor, fire exploding into the air, the mask shattered, the roar silenced. The warlord fell, the ground shaking with his weight. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of fire. The machines fell still. The drones dropped lifeless from the sky. The battle was over. Daniel collapsed to one knee, his breath heavy, his body shaking. But the girl was there, holding him, her glow soft now, healing him, her voice whispering his name, for the first time clear, for the first time human to his ears. Protector. The tribe gathered, their leader stepping forward. She raised her weapon and the others followed, one by one kneeling before Daniel, their heads lowered, their voices calling him protector, not only of the girl but of them all. Daniel's heart pounded. He had come here as a lone explorer, a stranger in a strange land. Now he was something more, something he had never imagined, the protector of a people not his own. The bond between him and the girl more than fate, it was legacy. The girl stood beside him, stronger now, her wound fully healed, her glow calm. She looked at him with eyes no longer afraid, her voice soft but steady. She spoke words in her language. Though Daniel could not understand, he felt the meaning. She was promising he would never be alone. The tribe rose, their leader placing her weapon at Daniel's feet, a sign of honor, a sign of respect. Her glowing eyes meeting his, she bowed her head and the others followed, the valley filled with the sound of their chant once more. Protector, protector. Daniel stood slowly, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. He looked at the fallen warlord, at the broken machines and at the tribe around him. He knew the fight was won, but the war was not over. Somewhere beyond the stars, more enemies would rise, more battles would come. The girl touched his hand, her voice soft, her glow spreading into him once more. He felt warmth, peace, but also a warning. Their story was not finished. The rescue that began in silence had grown into a battle of fire, and it would not end here. Daniel looked to the sky. The marks that once burned were fading now, but he knew they would return. He knew the universe had changed, and he had changed with it. The tribe gathered their fallen, their voices singing in mourning and honor. The valley carried the echo of their song, the night calm again, yet heavy with memory. Daniel stood among them, no longer a visitor, no longer a stranger. He was the protector, chosen by fate, bound by the alien girl's trust, and by the legacy of this battle, and somewhere, in the silence between the stars, the next shadow was already moving, waiting, watching. The story of the protector was only beginning.